So the Bible is filled with illustrations, examples of men of God who've made choices and the consequences of those choices. Every choice you make, there is a consequence, good, bad, or indifferent, but there is a choice that you will make. But here's the kicker. When you make choices, you don't get to choose the consequence as a result of those choices. Can you imagine somebody breaking the law, get caught for speeding, 75 in a 65 zone, and you've got to go before the judge, and you know you're facing a heavy fine, and you walk up to the judge and say, Judge, I think my sentence needs to be just $5. I'm choosing my consequence to be $5 for this $500 ticket. That judge is going to look at you and say, oh, bless their heart. They're so special. You don't get to choose the consequences. You made a choice, but the consequences is not yours. But you have to live with those consequences. The Bible is filled with so many illustrations. Joseph chose to forgive those who had cruelly mistreated him rather than harbor bitterness. Joseph chose to forgive. There's some of us, we're still not talking to somebody because they hurt us, because they offended us, because they said the wrong thing, because they embarrassed us. We still have not crossed over to forgive them. There's some of us, we got family members. The last time you had them over to your house for Christmas, it was a disaster, and you hadn't had them back since. Choices. But Joseph said, I'm going to make the right choice. Yes, they hurt me. Yes, they lied to my father. Yes, they did all of this, but I'm choosing to forgive. It becomes a choice. Sampson chose to follow lustful desires rather than God's plan for his life. Samson knew right from wrong, knew what those consequences could happen, but he thought he could subvert them and get around them. So he made a bad choice. But it cost him. He didn't get to choose the consequence for those choices. Abraham chose to trust God and demonstrate that trust by being willing to offer his son as a sacrifice. Now, this is a son he'd been waiting on for a long time. And then he finally gets this son, and God said, hey, Abraham, check this out. I need you to give him to me. Excuse me, Lord, could you say that again? I need you to, Lord, I just got him. Lord, I need you to give him to me, Abraham. Abraham had to make a choice. Guys, you know, if you went home and told your wife that the Lord told you to offer up little Johnny or little Mary, she probably going to pack you 2 or 3 bags and send you to your mother's house. Because that choice just don't sit right. But Abraham had to make a choice. How could he have made that kind of a choice? Because he knew who God was. He knew that God was a right now God. He knew that God had never left him or forsaken him and left him hanging. He knew that God had given him that promise. So to make that choice, he had to say, God, I trust you with myself. I trust my son into your hands. So based on my relationship with you, I'm willing to obey and do what you've asked me to do. Sometimes it's hard for us to choose because we don't have that relationship thing where it needs to be. We don't have that relationship that when God asks us something, we say, God, is that you? And he said, yes, that's me. Or can you show me some ID? I need to see those digits. I need to know that that's you. But when you have relationship, when you know the voice of God, when you know that he's been there in your most difficult time, when he asks something of you, we say, Lord, here am I. I can do that because of the relationship that I have with you. Judas chose to betray Christ for financial gain. Walk with Jesus, sing testimonies, but financial gain caused him to compromise what he knew was the right thing, but he needed this. Oh, he walked with him, but maybe at a distance. He walked with him, but it wasn't personal. That some of us, we have this group salvation. We name him, but we don't know him. We name him, but we're not in a relationship with him. And so the temptation came, and he chose the temptation. Of the 2 thieves crucified on either side of Jesus. One chose to mock him while the other chose to trust him. The choices Joseph, Abraham, and the thief who trusted Christ brought unbelievable, wonderful results. God honored Joseph's faithfulness and forgiveness by raising him from the prison to the palace, reuniting him with his brothers and his father. The favor of God. God's 1,000 steps ahead of us. We obey based on what we think the consequences will be. We obey based on whether it makes sense to us. But God is saying, you are not responsible for the outcomes, but you are responsible for the obedience. We don't share the gospel with our neighbors because we're thinking, I don't think they're ready for this yet. We don't invite them to church because we're thinking, I don't know who's speaking this morning. I don't want to be embarrassed. We don't make those decisions because we're so caught up that you think you're responsible for the outcome, and God has said you have nothing to do with the outcome. But you are responsible for the obedient part.